What is going on, everybody? We are back with the 107, looking at the 107 pick in rookie dynasty mock drafts, I should say, not mock drafts. Joined by some family, my brother, my dad. How's it going, guys?
How's everybody doing?
Happy Friday, right?
Yeah, let you guys figure out which one's my dad and which one's my brother. Yeah, it is Friday, the 14th. So 2 weeks away from the draft. So we're doing this not knowing landing spots. And I think we're getting to the point where landing spots are going to come into play. Draft capital and landing spots are going to come into play. More importantly, I think we can kind of figure out where the top 5 guys are going to go. They're all probably going to go first round picks. Now it's like, do they go in the second round? Do they go in the third round? And it really, really matters. I've been talking about it. We've been releasing draft prospect videos and talking a lot about it. And basically, like every position, quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, running backs, if you fall out of the first, like 80% of the top fantasy finishers, top 12 for tight ends, top 20 for running backs, 80% of them are in the first 3 rounds. And only about 20% are coming from basically day 3 picks, which is 4th round or later. So it really, really makes a difference. Now, all these guys, I think, should be day 1 or 2 picks. So we'll kind of get into it. I'm going to lay out who I think will be gone in a Superflex league. Bijan, the top 3 quarterbacks, which is Richardson, Stroud, and Young, and JSN, I think are all gone by then. That's 5. Obviously, we're on 7. So somewhere in the 6th pick is going to be like a Gibbs or a wide receiver 2, or possibly a Will Levis and a Hendon Hooker. So I'm just going to lay out a couple who would you take type of situations for you guys. If it's Jahmyr Gibbs versus, Jordan Addison, who are you guys taking in that? And let's say, I don't know, let's just say Gibbs went in the 2nd round, Addison went in the 1st round. So they both have good draft capital. Dad, who are you taking when it comes to those 2 guys, Addison or Jahmyr Gibbs?
I'd probably would consider Gibbs right about this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dad, is there any wide receiver you would take over Gibbs besides JSN that you would take over Gibbs, or is it kind of you're okay with Gibbs at this point?
I think I'm all right with Gibbs. I'd also maybe wide receiver. I might consider Quentin Johnson, I guess. Again, we got to see how the regular draft kind of lays out and how we think guys are going to fit in with the teams that they're drafted, and that's of course it's like rolling the dice, so nobody really knows, but
I'm kind of surprised by that. I thought you would have taken Addison, Dad. I thought you were a little higher on him.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking that I already picked him, earlier. So,
well, let's say he is there, though, is what I'm saying.
Well, if he is there, I'm picking him. I'm picking Addison. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take Gibbs at 7 over Addison.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me, but I'd probably lean Gibbs because I do think Gibbs has like potential to be a really, really good running back, like a top 5 running back fantasy finisher guy. He doesn't have the ideal size, but the top 2 finishers from last year were guys basically his size, Austin Eckler and Christian McCaffrey. Now, a guy like McCaffrey, he showed in college he could take on the load. Like he had a freaking like 300 carries and 60 catches or something his like last year in college. So like nowhere near what Gibbs was doing, like way ahead of what Gibbs was doing. I mean, so I don't think it's just a direct comparison. Same with like I hate the Jahmyr Gibbs Alvin Kamara comparison. I think it's just kind of an easy, cheap. Like, oh, he catches the ball, he must be Alvin Kamara. It's like, no, Alvin Kamara weighs like, it's like Alvin Kamara weighs like 220, like he weighs like 20 pounds more than Gibbs and can run between the tackles probably better, but I think Gibbs is more explosive. So I'd lean Gibbs, assuming over any receiver, I think, except for JSN. What about if it's Gibbs, dad, versus Hendon Hooker? And let's say Hendon Hooker was taken at the end of the first round. Someone jumped up and took him. Who are you taking in a super flex league?
Probably Hooker. Definitely super flex.
Mm-hmm.
Not looking for. Yeah, pick 7. I don't think I'd have a problem picking Hooker. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I would go Hooker also. It's kind of funny you said the end of the first round, and it's like, oh, what if he goes to the Chiefs, Dad? And then you're obviously not taking him there. No,
it's more you see it a lot, not a lot, but you see it every now and then that teams that have like early, mid, second round picks,
they'll trade
back into the first
round. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that in the past, and they do that specifically for to get that 5th-year option, and especially for like a quarterback, it's so valuable to get that 5th year.
Especially a guy who he did have an ACL injury and is probably not going to, even if he could be the starter, he probably wouldn't be ready until like mid to the end of the year anyway. So,
okay,
I think it's even more valuable. All right, Brian, you can continue. I think you might be delayed again, but
oh, sorry, I didn't know it was still on me. But no, I said I would take Hooker.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'd go Hooker too. I'm a big Hendon Hooker fan. Now, last guy before we get into some trades, Will Levis. And let's say what Levis goes in the top half of the first round. Are you taking Levis? Let's say
I was just gonna say I would take.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm definitely on a delay. But no, I was just gonna say that before you even threw that name out there. I'd take either one of them at 7 if either one was there in a super flex league.
Yeah, I agree with that. Dad, would you take? I know you're not a big Levis fan. Let's say Hooker doesn't go to like 3rd, 4th round for whatever reason. Would you take Levis or who gets picked in the top 15 versus like a Gibbs or an Addison? Who are you taking?
I think I would go away from the quarterback here and running back, wide receiver. That would probably be my thought process.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I think you got to again. I talked about it last video. Kind of respect the draft capital a little bit, and I think this is kind of a point where it's like if Levis is still there after the 7th pick, I'm taking him no matter what, basically, if he gets that high draft capital. So going into some trades, maybe some trades for players first. 107 for Terry McLaurin, 107 for Deebo Samuel. Are you guys doing either one of those or neither, or you like one, hate the other? Brian, you want to start?
Yeah, I don't like that. I'm not too high on Deebo. And, maybe that'll come back and bite me in the ass kind of a thing. But I'd much rather have the pick. And McLaurin, I do like McLaurin. I don't know if he's ever going to be much. I don't know if he has like wide receiver 1 upside necessarily, especially with Dotson on the team now. And I don't know what the quarterback play is going to look like. So I don't like either one of those, honestly. I'd rather just take the younger receiver or the quarterback I don't feel as good about at the 107.
Okay, Dad?
I think just the opposite. Established receivers. I know their quarterback situation may not be perfect. San Francisco's is a little more clear than the Washington one, but I don't think I'd have a problem taking. I've seen these wide receivers, McLaurin and Deebo, play, and they're good. They're gonna, as long as they're they're getting the ball, and that's what you got to assume.
Mhm.
And so I would do that. I would make that trade.
Yeah, I kind of lean that way a little bit too. Again, I didn't mention 12-team leagues, but I think we're getting to the point where I think obviously a way to stay relevant is get picks and keep replenishing and stay young. And I think another way to stay relevant is like if you are near the end of this draft, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and you obviously, if you earn that, it means you're a pretty good team. So like trading these guys for established players, I think is not a bad strategy because now you're getting into like these guys. JSN, I think, is like a 90% lock of going to be a fantasy producer. Bijan, same. Now you're getting into like, this can go either way, kind of. Like this guy could be a stud. This guy could be good in the NFL, but not great for fantasy. Like we're getting to like closer to like 50% already, if Gibbs is there, maybe I'm taking Gibbs, but if he's not, I'm probably going to take I still like Debo and I like McLaurin too. So
if you had Terry McLaurin, you wouldn't trade him for Hendon Hooker in a super flex league?
Straight up, yeah. If Hendon Hooker's there, I'm taking him.
Okay.
I'm saying, we're getting to that point depending on like who's there, and kind of if you can kind of map out the the draft a little bit, and if you know like Hooker's going to be there or Jahmyr Gibbs, then I'm going to keep the 107. But just in general, like if you think, let's say for future drafts and stuff, like I'm just saying, like this is the point where I'm starting to think about established players versus these draft prospects.
Yeah, I agree with the process. I'm just kind of thinking like, I guess what scares me away from Debo specifically is like the McCaffrey thing. And just like, the whole team is like full of good players. So I feel like he's probably better in like a best ball situation. Like, I guess he's a guy you could just start every week and not really worry about it depending on where he is in your lineup. Because he's going to have good weeks, but I don't know how much. I guess we don't have to get into this too much specifically on Debo, but I'm just kind of curious, like how many like rush attempts he was getting after McCaffrey got there, and because that was kind of like his special ability. Yeah, but not the only thing that made him special by any stretch, but it definitely like helped bolster his value. And I just don't see him being a wide receiver one necessarily, or McLaurin for that matter.
I kind of disagree with that just because like we didn't really see the rushing until the playoffs really last in 2021 he had 1,400 receiving yards. And again, it's one of those like I think that's easy to forget. There's players where it's just like it's easy to forget those things. Like 1,400 yards is no joke. Like he did have 60 carries and he had 42 last year. I forget exactly when they traded for McCaffrey, but weeks 9 through 13 he was getting 4 carries a game basically. Which is basically what he was getting when he was in 2021, So I don't know. I still think there's a lot of potential for Debo. Like he's 27, a young 27. And he had like 800 total yards last year, missed 5 games. So I approached, he had 600 receiving, 200 rushing roughly, or, closer to 700, closer to 900 yards. So it's just like, I approach that the same as like any receiver that has 800 yards and missed 5 games. It's like, well, if he played all those games, he has like 1,100 total yards, and that looks a lot better, right?
Which is right around like where McLaurin lives, I think, right? Like he's kind of he'll get you 1,000, but he's I don't know if he's necessarily like definitely not a lock for 1,400 or anything like that. No one is, but I don't know. I don't see it necessarily.
Okay, so what about a trade? And I think from what you guys kind of mentioned in the last video, you might not like this, but the 107 going back to the 110, picking up the 203. Dad?
No. I don't think I'd do that.
ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I don't think I would do it either, honestly. I just don't think it's quite enough. I mean, then you're really like pushing yourself outside of. I just think there's still better prospects here than there's going to be at 10 necessarily. Like, especially in Superflex, like I'm definitely taking one of those quarterbacks at that pick if they're there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think 10 is too far back. Again, like what I said last time, it's like I'm going to need something more than just 1 second to move back, even though it's only 3 spots, but maybe a second next year also thrown in makes that more enticing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think because you're guaranteed either Gibbs or Hooker or Levis, like you're guaranteed one of those at the 107. This year, I probably wouldn't do that either, and I would take one of those guys. What about the 107 and Christian Watson? You get Mark Andrews, the 201 and the 405. Brian, what do you think about that one? 107 and Watson for Andrews, 201, 405.
I think honestly, I'd rather stay put and keep Christian Watson also. Wait, did I think about that correctly?
Yep.
So yeah, Mark. So you're basically moving back 6 spots and trading Watson for Mark Andrews, more or less, is what the trade is. Yeah, I don't think I would do that.
No, definitely not. I wouldn't. Andrews is a nice tight end. You know, Watson, he's, you know, could have a breakout year. Pretty much, you know, we've seen hints of what he can do. So I don't think I'm doing that.
Yeah, depending on like how you feel about Watson versus Andrews. Like, if you really think Andrews is that much more valuable of a commodity because of where he plays and like how he plays, like maybe throw in your second pick with Watson just for Andrews straight up, like, and keep your 107. Like, that might be an avenue to go down. I don't know if I would do that necessarily. Like, I think obviously we don't know what Jordan Love's going to be like with Christian Watson, but we've seen what Watson can do when he's healthy with Rodgers. So, you know, even if some of that translates and he's not so touchdown dependent, I mean, he could easily be the wide receiver 1 on his team. I don't think there's anyone on the roster right now really challenging that. Like, maybe him and Dobbs are more like 1A and 1B, depending on like when they're both healthy and how they're used. But I just feel like it's funny because like Mark Andrews, I really like him sometimes, and sometimes I'm not so high on him. So,
yeah, that's fair. One last thing I kind of want to get into in terms of trading before we end the video is, and I think a lot of people go through this thought process. I know I've thought about it a lot. At what point are you okay with trading like your pick, the 107, for a 2024 first, not knowing what that first is going to be? So it's basically like essentially theoretically like a 50-50 shot of it being a higher pick or being a lower pick. When do you feel comfortable doing that? Is the 107 where you know, not really looking at what players are there necessarily, but is the 107 where you start thinking about that and like, oh, I can get a first next year?
I don't. I think it wouldn't be until later in the first round, like maybe 110 is where I would like really consider that. Yeah, just off the top of my head, I don't think I'm looking to trade for next year's first just for a first this year. Like, it seems like kind of a lateral move. Like, you can pick the team that you think is most likely going to give you the better pick, i.e. like the team you think is worse. But yeah, I don't know if that's a gamble I would take at 107.
Okay. Dad, what about you? Like trading?
No, I think you know, should be able to get somebody who's going to be fantasy relevant in the first 10 picks. So, you know, I don't think I would.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think we're getting close, but it's always an interesting dilemma, I guess, to have. But we're gonna finish up, and we're gonna be back with the 108s. We move along. We're gonna go all the way to the 112. But next video, the 108. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.